Hello and good morning everyone. It's Friday morning here in the UK, and those of you who are celebrating a very happy Easter to you. Why am I doing Thursday Thoughts on a Friday morning? Well, those of you who tried to join us yesterday via our YouTube channel, unfortunately it absolutely didn't want to work for us. It was YouTube was having a moment, so what we decided was that we would re-record it this morning just for YouTube. So we've cancelled and deleted all the other streams, so it's not going to TDIQ, it's not going to our website, it's not going to Facebook. Why are we doing that? Because YouTube has a great record facility, which means that we can record this and save it direct to YouTube without having to do any post-processing and that kind of stuff. So we're doing Thursday Thoughts on a Friday morning, and I know it's a bank holiday in Europe, and I know that a lot of people are celebrating this Easter period. If you're not, I hope you have a nice weekend, etc. So I'm going to go through exactly the same stuff that I went through yesterday, and I hope that we have no major hiccups. I've got the stream running next to me. It says that it's running live. It says that it's running perfectly. So the computer's not running so hard today, which I think was half of the problem. We did identify that there was a piece of software using a lot of resources on the Mac, so we've managed to disable that. So I'm going to go through all the normal stuff that we go through. So I'm going to go through the industry news, and then I'm going to go through some member news, and then I'm going to go through some TDW news. And but I want to start off by kicking off and saying, yesterday and a couple of days ago we were asked, are our videos sponsored? And the answer to that is no, they are not sponsored. And purely because Facebook's terms and conditions don't allow us to be sponsored by somebody else, and YouTube have recently updated their terms and conditions to say that there's some special rules around sponsorship. So the idea is that if we want to do something that is going to be specific to a customer, i.e. it's going to be specifically sponsored, which we've got some stuff lined up, we will just do that to our own platform. That way we're in control, we know what we're doing. And to be fair, the majority of people watching our videos are watching through our platforms, through TDIQ, or they are watching through our live web page, because it seems that seems to be getting through a lot of people's IT systems. So no, they are not sponsored. Is it something we would look at in the future? Absolutely, as long as we can comply with the Facebook and the YouTube terms of conditions. Otherwise it'll just go to our own website. Yesterday I welcomed our new TDIQ subscribers in Poland, and I was going to try and say it in Polish, and then I decided against it rather than causing offence or saying it wrong or doing all those kind of things. So I know that Janet in Poland has signed up to TDIQ with an aim to understanding S1000D, with an aim to wanting to contract for and support and identify software. So welcome aboard, and I'm glad that we can be of assistance, and of course we believe you made the right decision. So lots of good stuff coming on TDIQ, and I'll talk about that later on through this presentation. So when I come on to the news, which I will do very, very shortly, we have deliberately avoided all of the new announcements of buying aircraft, quite purely and simply because there are millions of these announcements. And I saw another one last night after we'd had this live broadcast. I saw another one last night saying that one of the European, I think it's the European director of CDG, which is part of Boeing, believes that there will be another 40,000 aircraft sales in the next few years, which is phenomenal. So we are not going to mention that. There are obviously some very interesting stories out there at the moment around Hawaiian Airlines and American Airlines, and if you've not kept up with those, go and Google that. You'll see what's going on. They were going to buy Boeing, they were going to buy Airbus, and then they decided to buy Boeing and that kind of stuff. So you can go and have a look at that. Yesterday we did enable the chat on our website, where we did have some questions at the end. I won't go through those today. If you want to have a little laugh at my panicked face and that, go and have a look on our Facebook page. We've just left that video up there where things were failing around me and the world was falling apart. So you can go and have a look at that. So I'm just going to focus on the things that I think affect technical publications, affect what we are doing in our technical support information area, and then, you know, maybe expand on that and how I think that it will affect the way that we do our job. So I can see actually there's a few people online. I wasn't expecting that this morning so early. So we are going to go into some of the news. So last week I mentioned, I'm going to change some of the camera angles here for you. Last week I mentioned Saab, and I said that I'd found a press release that had said that they had produced the technical publications for a Mitsubishi aircraft, which has now been delivered. But I also found it interesting that the press release actually included the fact that they'd used the ASD S1000E, they call it a standard, but the ASD standard, and then go on to say to comply to the specification. But so they say they successfully delivered. Well, they don't really say they successfully delivered. They say that they used it, and I would be interested if anybody from Saab is willing to do an interview or do a conversation with us here at TDW around, you know, any of the challenges that you had, any of the, you know, positives that you received from using it, and because I believe that that would benefit the whole wider community. So I think that would be great if we could do that. I noticed that also this week BAE Systems, along with BMT, along with Camel Laird, have won the new Type 45 power pack, or the power system improvements. So again, I believe that will affect technical publications, that will affect the requirement and the need for, and in fact I have been contacted by a few organisations if I know people responsible for these projects individually within each organisation. So I think I've done some introductions for some people there, and so that would be something that I believe is going to you know, certainly generate some interest, generate some need. You know, if the Navy, I believe the Type 45 is on S1000D, so I guess it will be data module driven, and yeah, be lots of good stuff coming out around that, I'm absolutely sure. Safran, this one I picked up on the Newswire late last week, just after we'd finished our Thursday Thoughts last week, and what I noticed is that they've announced their new e-spares service, and I thought, oh well, this is quite interesting, let's have a read. And it actually, in the press release, it goes on to talk about how they can now generate a spares demand from their IETP, from their interactive manual, and that will then generate an order process. Now, it looks like from the press release, and I did go and have a little nosy at the Safran website as well on their IETP, it looks like it's actually a two-step process. It looks like it's something that you can complete in the IETP. You then export a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet then goes off and is sent through a process. So for me, that it's not groundbreaking. You know, most vendors, you know, Flatirons, Juve, you know, WebEx Systems, and anybody that I've forgotten, I apologise, have been doing this for a long time. They've been doing dynamic ordering of parts and spares anyway. So, but it's not, I just thought it was interesting, and it made sense that, you know, we pulled it up, A, because we know the kind of information Safran produces, we know the kind of challenges that they have in supporting their maintainers, and you know, we have customers that are supporting Safran. So it's I think it was interesting and a useful piece of news. Leonardo, big in the news at the moment here in the UK, or parts of Leonardo, and they've just been awarded a large contract by the RAF on a missile decoy system, and you know, I'm not quite sure whether that will be S1000D. I should think it will be. Certainly, you know, looking at some of the more modern programs within the RAF, they certainly are around S1000D. So Leonardo, congratulations on that project. I'm sure there will be a technical publications requirement will come out from that. And yeah, we know loads of people at Leonardo. I'm not sure whether the guys that we speak to regularly are directly involved in this program, but yeah, well done to those guys. Now, these people we do speak to regularly is our friends at MBDA have won a major missile contract, which the Defence Equipment Support Organisation are positioning it as a safeguarding engineering jobs within the United Kingdom. And but I know Glenn and the guys at MBDA, and I know that this will be exciting times for them. I know it'll be hard times, and I know that it will be you know, time for them to ramp up their technical publications. I'm absolutely sure. I should think I should think it will be an S1000D requirement. I'm not sure. I stand to be corrected. So those are kind of, out of all of the news items that we found this week, those were kind of really the most interesting in terms of what's happening out there. As I said, there were some very interesting airline news stories out there which we decided to just stay away from because it didn't have a direct impact on technical publications. After Thursday Thoughts yesterday, I did notice that there were some new newswire stories that had come out that we will mention on the next Thursday Thoughts. Specifically around augmented reality, and I believe Boeing had some kind of cyber attack yesterday. So you know, we did see an augmented reality story where the US military infantry are going to use augmented reality to teach their soldiers, their servicemen, the marksmanship principles. So if you know what the marksmanship principles are, they teach you how to hold and fire a weapon correctly and accurately and safely and those kind of things. And augmented reality is going to be introduced to help teach those soldiers that, which I thought was very interesting. So coming on to some member news, this week the guys at Flatirons Juve have announced that they have released a major update to their Carina suite. Now, if you know what their Carina suite is, it's a management, publishing, editing, IETP solution around technical information, and they have announced a major upgrade this week. And I don't know the details yet. All I've done is I've read the press release. So if you want to know more about that, the press release actually has the contact details of the guys at Flatirons Juve you can get in touch with. But I thought it made sense that we talked about that, because I know that a lot of people that we support use Flatirons Juve. We know that a number of you are looking at Flatirons Juve, and so it made sense that we mentioned that. GPSL, a company that we seem to be mentioning a lot, certainly over the last 3 Thursday Thoughts we've mentioned them. They have announced a new set of webinars, and I believe it's gpsl.co is their website. You can go and have a look at their webinar series. The latest one that they have announced is how to configure Arbortext to support MIL standards. And so I thought that made sense that we pulled that out, because some of you are still supporting MIL standards. A lot of you are using Arbortext editor. We've started our survey around editors in the market, and Arbortext is certainly up there as one of the most popular. And the only problem with this webinar is it clashes with something that we're doing on TDIQ, which I'll talk about very shortly. So GPSL are ramping up their webinar series, so do go and subscribe to their newsletter, do go and subscribe to their stuff and have a look at what's going on their particular channels. They do post a lot on LinkedIn and Twitter and that kind of stuff, so do go and follow them. But I thought that would be an interesting webinar. Again, I won't be able to go because I'll talk about why very shortly. This week we announced episode 5 of our podcast, and this week we talked about ROI, direct and indirect, in technical publications and technical information and support information, and where and how you can generate that ROI and how you can see that ROI and how you can demonstrate value within your organization around technical information, support information. So hopefully that will generate, so we've already had some conversations on LinkedIn around it, and some people have retweeted it and sent us comments and that kind of stuff. It was only announced Thursday morning or Wednesday evening, so do go and take a look. and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on how you're developing ROI within your organisation around technical information and support. The reason I can't go to the GPSL webinar is because we at the same time announced our next TDIQ live lesson, and we are going to be looking at how we create a DMRL from legacy information, and that includes a technical manual that we've got up on the shelf behind me. It also talks about how we can go from an old CMM and create an S1000D DMRL. We're going to go through the whole process, the role of the DMRL, the kind of stuff we have to go through, how we then define that DMRL, work through the process, and then at the end of it, how do we pull it all together to make something that we can then republish out to our end users. So we're going to go through that. That is on the 17th, and it'll start at 3 p.m. UK time. Plan to go on, I should think it will be between 2 and 3 hours, but we've given ourselves a couple of hours. If you can't make the live lesson, TDIQ subscribers, we will record it and it will be made available for you to go back. We will enable live chat on that as well, so you can ask us live questions, and we will also make available all of the course material beforehand so you can download and follow along exactly what it is we're going to do. If you're not a TDIQ subscriber, get in touch. We'll be more than happy to have you on board and join the ever-growing number of TDIQ subscribers. Last week I mentioned that we were on the road and we saw Aspire, SEMCon, Kieran Dodd, and we had some customer meetings as well. We've put together a little fun video of our road trip, and we've put that together for you to go and have a look at over on our YouTube channel. I think you can watch it direct from our normal website as well. And you know, it just gives you a little tour of Warwick and Coventry and those kind of Tamworth where we went, and hopefully you'll find that useful and interesting. I want to freshen up this market. This, you know, we all hear about the same old stuff from the same old people, and what we're trying to do is freshen up exactly what it is we're trying to do here. So it doesn't need to be dull, it doesn't need to be grey and nondescript, which is why we use yellow in our logo and why we use, you know, some bright colours and cartoons to illustrate exactly the challenges that we have, because it doesn't need to be the old dull PowerPoint slides that we see regularly from the same people. So I want to hear if that's the kind of content you like to see. Jamie likes putting it together, and I believe it tells a nice story that you know, you can join us on our road trips, and we've got some more road trips coming up, so we will continue to do that. The feedback we've had so far has been exceptionally positive. I just want to say thank you to David Jack and the guys over at Raytheon. They've signed up. We've received the formal order this week for them to come along to TDW Live this year. If you didn't come last year, you'll know that, just so you know, that David Jack stepped in for us at the last moment. One of the speakers was unwell and couldn't speak, so David Jack, literally within about 30 minutes, managed to patch something together, and the consummate professional that he is, put together a fantastic presentation and actually generated a lot of discussion and thought. So yeah, those guys have sent us the formal order, which means for TDW Live this year, we are already up to 6 confirmed exhibitors, 2 reserved. So awaiting budget approval, which we're hoping we'll be able to announce very shortly, which means if you've ever been to TDW Live, the conference room is going to be full. We are absolutely going to be to the rafters in there, and there's lots of good stuff coming up about TDW Live over the next couple of weeks that we will start putting together. So I'm going to move on to some of the questions that we received over the last week, and in the same way with the news, what we did is we just went for the ones that are, some of them are easy for us to answer and they're kind of common questions that we get, and B, we went for the ones that are a little bit meaty and, you know, we can get our teeth into. So, will you be doing a weekly podcast? Now, this is something that we get asked because our podcasts are becoming more and more popular and people are really liking the podcasts. we have said that we still want to keep it fortnightly, because they're really easy for us to put together. I just sit in front of these microphones with my notes, I talk, Jamie edits them, he publishes them to iTunes and does all of that stuff. But the reality is that, you know, I want to do more video, I want to do more engaging content like this with a bit more dynamic stuff. But we have got a number of interviews lined up, which we will then do special podcast episodes. So we've got invites out to Flatirons, we've got Kieran Dodd, we've got Peter Studdard, we've sent a request out to Team Defence Information to provide an S1000D expert to come and answer your questions live. That kind of stuff is something that we will be bringing more of. We will do more of that kind of content, and we will do it live on our channels like this, and we will also do it then we will edit it and make it a podcast that it's available. So right now we're planning on just keeping it once a fortnight, and then we will look at introducing special episodes, especially if I'm going anywhere decent like a conference or a workshop or something. We might do something from there as well. Will TDW Live 8 be streamed live again? Now, if you missed it last year, TDIQ subscribers and we had people from Munich, Madrid, the US joined us in the afternoon. We had a couple in India, Turkey, joined TDW Live via their TDIQ platform, as in they watched the live stream because they couldn't actually get the budget to come to the conference itself. So as part of their subscription, we just thought that actually last year what we would do is try the live stream. So we invested quite a lot of money in the hardware and the software, which let us down yesterday, and it worked brilliantly. In fact, I've had some conversations with a lot of you that joined the live sessions, and you know, certainly I've got some friends down in Switzerland that sat and watched, and a couple of guys here in the UK who said that they were able to prepare dinner while they had the conference streaming live next to them, which I thought was fantastic. To answer your question, absolutely, if you are a TDIQ subscriber, we will do that again. We will broadcast live to TDIQ, and as I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, we will also be looking at live streaming the supportability track, which is what Peter Studdard is going to be looking after with his team, and we've got some fantastic speakers lined up for that. So we are looking at how we can certainly live stream both of those, and the venue that we have, they've just upgraded to a super fast broadband connection using fibre, so hopefully that won't be a problem. But certainly everybody I've spoken to said it was a fantastic idea. We've got some new fresh ideas on how to do and use that this year, and it just means that I've got to persuade the finance director here that we need to invest in a little bit more hardware, a little bit more computer capacity as well. But yes, we will be streaming live, and if you're a TDIQ subscriber, you'll be able to join that for sure. Do you provide Framemaker training? Is something that comes up regularly. We don't provide the kind of this is Framemaker and this is what it does and this is how it does it. What we do provide is on TDIQ we have to often show and demonstrate principles and practices on S1000D and ATA and structured information and unstructured information and that kind of stuff. So we use standard Framemaker with standard off-the-shelf applications for DITA, for S1000D, and we've made a couple of ATA extensions ourselves so that you can follow along on the tutorials. So they're not formal Framemaker training courses, if you like, but we use Framemaker to demonstrate capability. We do have an introduction to structured authoring, which I've pointed you at, which does go through Framemaker and say these are the key areas of Framemaker and this is, you know, how it works. But we don't do a sit down, you know, maybe we should do, but I've pointed you at two people that I trust to deliver some good training in terms of Adobe Framemaker, and I know that you've placed an order with one of them, so good luck with that. So we don't do formal Framemaker training. Why Is S1000D so expensive, and do you believe its days are numbered? Now this is the big question that we received this week, and it's from somebody who's been told that they have to do it. And in the next article, so we've got the magazine coming out next week, and we'll talk about that in the next issue of Thursday Thoughts. But in Q2's issue of the magazine, I have produced an article that's called Technical Information Perspectives, and we've got a great cartoon. Marjan's put a great cartoon together for it, and I should have put it up. Maybe I'll tweet it or something later. We've done a great cartoon that shows different perspectives of technical publications, and we talk about S1000D in there. And the problem with S1000D is that the perception is that it's, you know, it's front loaded in cost, it's front loaded in effort, and it's front loaded in time. And if you've been on TDIQ, and I know that you've just signed up to TDIQ, you've got a cost curve associated with S1000D, and we're going to do a live stream on that. I'm going to take that section of that course and do a live stream as well, and talk about the S1000D cost curve compared to a traditional. And we'll look at software skills, upfront loading, configuration, that kind of stuff, interaction with other standards and specifications. And so it is expensive compared to a traditional, here is a template, go write me a CMM. And but you know, there is still similar processes that you go through, but there are extra gates that you have to go through as well, which adds to the complexity, which adds to the time, which adds to the cost. Here, and this question is, do you believe its days are numbered? And the reality is that I believe S1000D right now is here to stay, certainly for the foreseeable, but certainly while all the big boys are asking for it, whether that's Airbus, Boeing, you know, and some of the other players are looking at it. You know, whilst we've got defence organisations investing time and energy in looking at how S1000D can benefit them. Do I believe its days are numbered? So, not on the large platforms, but I do have friends that are heavy S1000D users in their organisations. So they're tech pubs managers, they're ILS managers, and they have to use these specifications and standards day in, day out. And a couple of them are actively looking at low-cost, affordable replacements for S1000D on the smaller platforms or projects that they have to produce. Now, there's a misconception out there as well that DITA is more affordable and S1000D is kind of the big sledgehammer. We've got a great cartoon that shows the great sledgehammer trying to crack a nut. Now, the reality is DITA can be just as expensive, because you still have to go through those configurations, those setups, the investments in skills and software and that kind of process and that kind of stuff. So don't be, you know, misled that you think DITA is going to be that much more affordable and cheaper to implement, because I've been involved in both and they're kind of comparative. Certainly the gates you have to go through, certainly the investment that you have to make. So the days are not numbered, but I do believe that people on smaller programs are starting to look for an alternative. And you know, there was a rumor some time ago that somebody was putting together an S1000D Lite, which is where Marco and the Shipdex community have kind of done what I believe is something smart, which is they've taken a version of S1000D, they have made it applicable to their industry, commercial shipping, and have said, if you want to use S1000D in commercial shipping, here it is. This is what you do. And they've put it in the easier box. They've made tools available, and you know, those commercial shipyards can pick up the Shipdex specification and implementation of S1000D much more affordably, much more quickly, without having to decipher the S1000D specification. Pretty much all the configuration is done for you. And I think we're going to see more of that. You know, there was a rumor that there was Raildex, there was Rendex, which was the renewable energy sector, was doing some stuff. And so I don't believe its days are numbered. I think on some projects and programs on scale, they are questioning whether it's worth all of that upfront cost to get it to implement it. So that's that question. So I just wanted to say that finally, the surveys that we are doing, I wanted to say a massive thank you to everybody who is taking the time to send us their thoughts on the survey, those that are sending in their individual issues that they're having around using editors. We've had loads of submissions from airlines, from MROs. We've had them from obviously manufacturers and technical publications people themselves. It's delivering some really interesting results. So we are going to let that run for a little while, and we are going to let that keep pinging on down the line so that we can come to a crescendo at the end of the year and present some, we hope, will be meaty stats. So, and the great thing is there are tools being mentioned that I thought had disappeared years ago, and they are still being used by organisations, which is fantastic. And the Simplified Technical English, those of you that have submitted questions, thank you. We've had a load in. Please keep sending them in. We're sending them over to Kieran, and we are going to be putting together a live broadcast where we'll pull Kieran in and we'll do a live chat with her answering some of those questions for you. And then you'll be able to live engage with the expert on Simplified Technical English, and she'll be able to give you the straight from the horse's mouth on what you can and can't achieve with STE. And you know, I've met some really passionate people around information and information production and deployment, which I hope I am one. But Kieran is super stoked about STE, and she gets very passionate. She's very keen to promote STE. She's very keen to promote the methodologies and how it can really add value to organizations. So please do send in your thoughts, your questions for Kieran, and we will schedule something over in the next few weeks. Now, what I did want to do is say that next week, I'm going to come back to some irony now, is that I said that we don't do Framemaker training. Next Thursday, I am doing some online sessions for a client on Adobe Framemaker, which means as soon as those sessions are over, I have to jump in my car and drive 350 miles to the northeast of England to attend a family engagement. So there will be no Thursday Thoughts next week, but it's in Europe, it's Easter break anyway. Most people are on holiday, and you know, it means that we can have a bumper edition the week after, which I think will be much more fun. So I wanted to say that please do not turn up for Thursday Thoughts next week, because I won't be here, you might be, but that doesn't mean that we won't broadcast some stuff. You know, we've already got some stuff lined up that will be released next week, but there'll be no live session next week. I did just want to pop this up, which I thought was quite interesting. This is a little map that I took yesterday just before we went live that showed where we had some people joining us from. So some of you were joining us, it must have been midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, fantastic. Thank you very much. And it gives me great confidence that, you know, what we're doing is interesting to everybody in the community out there. The big orange ones is a larger concentration of people that are joining us, and you can see that we had a large concentration in the US, and that was 10 minutes before. So I'm sure that there would have been a few more beyond that. So we have lots of great stuff coming your way. TDIQ subscribers, please do make sure you subscribe to our online workshop that's coming up. We did have some questions come in live yesterday, a couple of comments on my t-shirt and that kind of stuff, and I've wrote them down. People saying that they love what we're doing, loving the tutorials, and then somebody asked about whether we could do some live workshops. We do live workshops. You're just not a TDIQ subscriber, so subscribe to TDIQ. And we had a question yesterday on, can we provide a monthly plan? I'll speak to the guys next week if we can do a monthly plan, and I'm sure, you know, there's not a big issue doing that. But we will certainly look at that going forward. Anyway, chaps, that was the recording for YouTube. I hope we did actually have a stack of you join us this morning. So thank you for that. I don't know where in the world you were, but I hope that came across a little bit better than yesterday's complete mess up with the software. The software has behaved beautifully this morning, so has YouTube. And I'm going to switch off. This will then be made available as a recording. Please subscribe, send in your comments, please give us a thumbs up, please share this with the technical information specialists within your organisation. We are building a community here, and we want you to be part of that community so we can all grow and learn and succeed together. Anyway, until next time, remember, no Thursday Thoughts next week. I will see you on the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Twitters and all those kind of things. But I'll see you in 2 weeks for a bumper Thursday Thoughts.